Hey there, I'm Nick, a former Amazon bar raiser, and in this video, I'll describe what the writing exercise is that Amazon gives to its senior level candidates. You will learn one, what the writing exercise is, two, what types of writing exercises there are, three, how important the writing exercise is in the context of the rest of your interview process, and four, and most importantly, how to ace your writing exercise without stressing out. All right, let's start with the basics. One, what is the writing exercise? There's a lot of other information on this online, so I'm gonna fly through the basics here. Amazon requires level 6 and higher level candidates to submit a written response to a prompt before their interview loops. And usually Amazon makes extending an offer to these candidates contingent on them having submitted such a written response. Why that is important for Amazon is because Amazon is a very writing heavy culture. Amazon engages in narratives, written documents, so on and so forth, and they want to assess your level of proficiency before you become an Amazonian. Now, let's cover the basics of what to do and what not to do. The writing must be your own. You cannot use AI or a ghostwriter to help you with it. You should write in a narrative prose. Do not use bullets or tables or abbreviations, or cite your sources. I've seen that happen a lot too. Don't include any confidential information in your answer. Just pick one of usually two prompts that Amazon will have you choose from and answer these prompts in writing. Don't worry about having to complete the writing exercise in one sitting. It's not timed, so you can start it, you can go back to it, so on and so forth until you finished. But usually try to send the completed writing exercise to Amazon within a few days before your interview loop to give people the opportunity to read it before they interview you. Part two is what types of writing exercises there are. There is the classic writing exercise, and there's also the outlier type of writing exercises. I'm going to cover all of those in a lot of detail next. Let's do the classic writing exercise first. That would be Amazon asking you to choose one of two questions. Either describe the most creative professional thing you've done, or describe a time when you did not have enough data and you had to go with your gut. So you have to choose one of these two questions and respond to them in a narrative written format within a certain number of word limit and submit that exercise before your interview loop. The second type of writing exercises are a bit trickier, and those happen for teams where narrative prose is less important than other functional technical competencies. Specifically, AWS solution architects are frequently asked to submit a presentation with a schematic of an architecture that they've had to deploy. Or if you are in a more creative field, such as if you are a designer, a UX, UI designer, or if you're an artist in a video game or in some other visual part of the company, or if you're an animator, so on and so forth, you would be usually asked to bring your portfolio with you and walk the team through that portfolio. I'll describe how to knock out of the park each of these types of writing exercises soon. But before I do that, I want to cover part 3, which is describe how important the writing exercise is in the context of the rest of your interview process. Believe it or not, the writing exercise is not that important. I would say that it contributes to about 3% of your overall hiring decision. The writing exercise is not a pass-fail test. It's an assessment. It's not going to get you hired on its own. It will never be the case where if you submit this sterling writing exercise, Amazon's response would be, whoa, hold the bus, let's hire Nick and cancel his upcoming interview loop because his writing exercise was so amazing. They're never going to do that. Conversely, you need to do an incredibly poor job in your writing exercise for Amazon to not hire you because of it. Think of the writing exercise as an assessment. They want to see your progress. They want to see your level of proficiency in writing. Similarly to if you have a kid and they have to go from elementary school to middle school or what have you, Some schools would ask them to take assessments in reading, writing, math, so on and so forth. These schools want to see how advanced the kid is and how to place them. It's very similar with the Amazon writing exercise. In fact, some of the interviewers on your loop might not even have read the writing exercise. Usually, one interviewer is assigned to quiz you and ask you questions on your writing exercise, but sometimes even that doesn't happen. So you as a candidate, after you submit your writing exercise, it's totally fine to describe the same professional accomplishment that you've used in your writing exercise as an answer to one of the interview questions. Just check with the interviewer, say, hey, I've already submitted this as my writing exercise, this response. Is it okay for me to give you that same answer? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, yeah, go ahead and do that. And in order for you to be mindful of if there might be a separate interviewer looking at your writing exercise later, I would give your writing exercise response maybe in the second half of the loop. For the AWS Solution Architect writing exercises and the more creative roles writing exercises, the writing exercise is more important than 3% for sure. Maybe it's in the 10 to 15 percentile range. And for those writing exercises, the whole team would witness it in one of your interview slots. Usually Amazon, if 5 people are interviewing you in your Amazon loop, there'll be a 6th slot for 1 hour where the whole loop is going to attend and you're going to present to them your AWS Solution Architect schematic or your portfolio if you're a creative candidate, so on and so forth. So for those writing exercise equivalents, it's more important to do a good job than just a mere 3%. And I'm going to describe to you how to do that next. So that's part 4, how to ace your writing exercise. I'm going to cut this answer in 2 parts, the classic exercise, writing exercise, and the AWS Solution Architect and creative writing exercise. Let's start with the classic writing exercise. Let that writing exercise response be a byproduct of the rest of your interview preparation. I have described in other videos how it's very helpful to put together a matrix with your professional accomplishments and failures on the one side and with Amazon's leadership principles on the other side, and make sure that you map those accomplishments and failures against which leadership principles they demonstrate. And if you do that, and if you practice answering and describing those accomplishments verbally, all you have to do in order to ace your writing exercise is pluck the star response that manifests, that illustrates the right leadership principle that Amazon is asking you for. Usually in the 2 classic interview writing exercise questions, Amazon would ask you, 1, describe the most creative professional thing you've done. That is usually the response to your invent and simplify or your think big leadership principle. Or Amazon would ask you, tell me a time when you did not have enough data and you had to go by your gut. That usually is your answer to the write a lot leadership principle. So if you do the heavy lifting and you prepare your 25, 30 answer portfolio of professional accomplishments and failures, the writing exercise just falls off as a byproduct of that. You get one of those star responses, you commit it to writing, you type it out in the requirements they've given you in terms of word count, so on and so forth. You put it in a narrative format and you'll be in a really great shape for your writing exercise. Now, let's talk about the outlier writing exercises, the AWS Solution Architect presentation and the Creative Roles portfolio presentation. For the AWS Solution Architect roles, Amazon would, as I mentioned, frequently substitute a written narrative submission with a presentation where you have to describe a time when you have deployed some sort of architecture to resolve a challenge for a customer, for an account that you've worked with, because they're going to expect you to do that on the job, much more so than write in prose. So a lot of these teams that expect you to do that, they would give you very clear requirements of what that presentation needs to look like. They're frequently going to limit the number of slides you can use to 3, 4, 5 slides, and they're going to tell you that you have to present this presentation to the whole team in about 60 minutes, and they would expect you to complete your presentation part in about maybe 30 minutes and leave the rest of the time for questions and answers. If you hear this type of feedback and those types of instructions, I would make sure to, in the 3 or 4 very tight slides that you use to describe your architecture, I would make sure to hit the following main points. 1, describe why this deployment was important, what was at stake. 2 and 3, show the before and after state, how things used to look like before you jumped in and you were asked to put out the fire. And then in the 3rd slide, what you did after the fact in order to resolve the situation and answer the so what question. And then optionally, there could be a 4th slide, and I highly recommend it, where you would show the interview loop how you would have used AWS's technology if you could, in case you didn't use AWS in your final resolution. So it's quite okay to have schematics for the most part in all of those slides, with some maybe major highlights of areas in that schematic that you want the interview loop to see. But yeah, use schematics, keep it to 3 or 4 slides. It's totally fine to have a number of other slides in your appendix, and think of those other slides as specific questions that the loop might ask you, and answers and illustrations to those core, key, frequently asked questions that were a part of your implementation. And that would come across, if you do it that way, your presentation would come across very professionally, because you would only cover the 3 or 4 slides in the beginning of your presentation, and then when the Q&A part comes and the team starts peppering you with questions, you just say, great question. Let me scroll to slide 8. And here you can actually see how I've actually responded and tackled this question and what the solution is that I've come up with. Amazon uses that practice a lot. They have the 6-page narrative, and which is limited, and the subsequent appendices and appendix slides, which could be completely without an end sometimes, it feels like. So follow that approach for your AWS Solution Architect presentation. For a creative role presentation, follow a similar approach. If you are a UX designer, bring concepts and work representative of different stages in your professional development. Here's maybe a few slides from the best accomplishments early in your career, and then here's how your work evolved later on. If you're an artist, bring different, again, representations of your diversity and breadth as a professional. Maybe show them some concept art, show them some 3D art, show them character art, show them 2D art, so on and so forth. If you are an animator, similarly, show them different styles of animation, and give people a full perspective of the diversity and the proudest accomplishments in your portfolio. Flaunt these proudly and be ready to answer questions when asked. All right, and that's that. That's all you need to know to ace your Amazon writing exercise. It's not a secret test. It's just another way that Amazon evaluates your proficiency and assesses where you are. All right, now that you know what it takes to produce a outstanding writing exercise, you should watch this video here next, where I will walk you step by step through how much AI can you use as you prepare for your Amazon interview loop.